The abandoned mall sat at the edge of town, like a wound no one wanted to touch. Rain-slicked streets reflected the flickering emergency lights, casting jagged shadows across shuttered storefronts. Officer Daniel Hayes felt the weight of silence pressing against him, broken only by the faint, almost imperceptible whimpering echoing from behind the elevator shaft. His K9, Rocco, stiffened, hackles raised, nose twitching in the damp air. Someone, was trapped, scared, and in danger. Hayes's heart thudded against his ribs, a mix of dread and adrenaline, as he approached the darkness, unaware that what they would uncover would shatter everything he believed about his quiet hometown. Rain lashed against the empty parking lot, turning the asphalt into a black mirror. Officer Daniel Hayes parked his cruiser near the far side of the abandoned Willow Creek Mall, headlights cutting through the mist like knives. The building had been closed for over 5 years, left to decay, and yet something about tonight felt wrong. The distant whimpering that had pulled him here refused to quiet, threading through the darkness like a living thing. Rocco, his German shepherd, pressed against his side, ears erect, tail rigid. The dog's instincts were sharper than Hayes's own gut, and he had learned long ago not to ignore them. "What do you see, boy?" Hayes muttered. Flashlight slicing through the rain, its beam trembling as he scanned the desolate facade. The elevator shaft at the rear of the mall, the old service entrance, loomed like a black mouth, sucking in the faint echo of the whimpering. Hayes' stomach tightened. He had been a cop for 12 years, but there was something primal about the sound, vulnerable, desperate. He crouched, unhooked Rocco's leash, and let him take point. The dog moved silently, paws wet against the concrete, nose low, tail stiff. Hayes followed, hand hovering near his weapon, senses straining. The faint smell of mildew and wet iron seeped from the elevator doors, mixing with the pungent scent of damp carpet. "Hello?" Hayes called softly, voice barely carrying over the rain. No answer, only the whimpering, rhythmic, like the heartbeat of someone too scared to speak. Rocco stopped abruptly, ears flat, low growl rumbling from his chest. Hayes' breath caught. Ahead, the elevator doors were slightly ajar, something that shouldn't have been possible without power. Rainwater trickled down the edges, making the metal glint under the flashlight's beam. "Stay close," Hayes whispered, more to himself than to the dog. He nudged the doors open with his boot. The smell hit him first, damp, metallic, and faintly sweet like rusted blood. Inside, the elevator shaft stretched downward into darkness. Old maintenance lights flickered, casting long, erratic shadows along the walls. The whimpering was louder now, closer, echoing off the steel walls. Hayes' pulse quickened. "Rocco, find them," he murmured. The dog didn't hesitate. He leapt into the shaft, claws scraping the metal grate floor, and stopped a few feet down, tail wagging nervously. Hayes climbed after him, flashlight dancing across rusted cables and graffiti-stained walls. At the bottom, something moved, small, frantic, human-shaped. "Hey!" "It's okay, I'm here to help," Hayes called softly. The whimpering spiked. A little girl, maybe 8 or 9, sat huddled in the corner, soaked and shivering. Her clothes were torn, dark streaks marring pale skin. Eyes wide, full of terror, fixed on him. "You're safe now," Hayes said, dropping to his knees, keeping his hands visible. "Can you tell me your name?" The girl's voice came out as a whisper, trembling. "Emia?" Rocco nudged her gently with his nose, whimpering in response, protective and reassuring. Hayes' chest tightened. The raw innocence in her eyes was almost too much to bear. But something else caught his attention. A small tattoo on her wrist, faded but visible, a series of numbers and letters crudely etched. His heart sank. This wasn't a simple runaway. This was something darker. "Rocco back," Hayes said firmly, eyes scanning the shadows. He pulled Mia close, wrapping her in his jacket. She trembled violently, teeth chattering. "It's going to be okay. I'm taking you somewhere safe." Before he could climb back up, a scraping sound echoed from above. Heavy footsteps. Hayes tensed, gun drawn. "Stay there," he hissed. Rocco growled, hackles raised, teeth bared. The footsteps paused. Then a man's voice, low and sharp. "Who's down there?" Hayes's grip tightened. "Officer Hayes." "Back away now." A figure appeared at the top of the shaft, tall, lean, shadowed by a hood. His movements were deliberate, almost predatory. "That girl doesn't belong to you," the man said. His voice carried a strange accent, clipped and precise. "Step away, and I'll leave her unharmed." Hayes's mind raced. He couldn't risk negotiation. Not here, not now. "I said back away," he shouted. The man's smirk was fleeting before he vanished into the shadows, leaving only the echo of his laughter. Hayes cursed under his breath, realizing the place was bigger than he thought. Twists and hidden corridors, maintenance shafts long sealed, perfect for someone who wanted to remain unseen. Mia whimpered again, tugging at his sleeve. Hayes knelt beside her, brushing wet hair from her face. "It's okay. I've got you." A sudden sound, metal clanging, muffled but deliberate, echoed from the far end of the elevator tunnel. Hayes froze, flashlight trembling. The man was moving, hunting, testing the shadows like a predator playing with its prey. Rocco growled low, warning him, pulling toward the sound. Hayes' gut twisted. He realized something terrible. Mia wasn't the only one. Behind the walls, through hidden vents, he could almost sense it. Other children, other victims trapped, abandoned, terrified. His stomach knotted. His hometown, sleepy and quiet, was hiding a darkness that nobody wanted to see. He wrapped Mia tightly in his arms and began climbing the shaft again, careful with every handhold. The footsteps above echoed, closer, sharper. Then came a voice from behind, different, quieter, almost pleading. "Don't trust him." Hayes froze. He spun around, gun raised, but only saw shadows. The rain outside hammered the metal roof, masking subtle movements. He knew instinctively. Someone was watching. Someone who wanted Mia back. Someone who had plans for her. Plans that had nothing to do with mercy. Rocco barked sharply, breaking the tension, and Hayes realized he needed to move fast. Climbing the remaining feet of the shaft, he pushed the doors open, emerging into the cold, wet night. The rain soaked him instantly, plastering hair to his forehead. Mia clung to him, sobbing quietly, but safe for the moment. At the edge of the parking lot, his cruiser glinted dimly under flickering street lamps. Hayes carried Mia to the passenger seat, locking the doors. Rocco circled, sniffing the darkness, growling low at shadows that didn't belong. Hayes' eyes scanned the lot, searching for the man in the hood. But the night was empty, silent again, as if it had never heard the whimpering at all. He started the engine, rain pelting the windshield. His hands shook, and not just from the cold. Something inside him had shifted. Willow Creek Mall, the quiet town, the people he thought he knew. They were all pieces of a puzzle that had suddenly turned monstrous. And he realized with a sinking dread that finding Mia was only the beginning. He glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Her tiny face, streaked with dirt and tears, looked back at him with fragile hope. "You're safe now, Mia," he whispered. But even as he said it, he knew the shadows hadn't released her yet. Rocco whined softly, leaning against the seat, and Hayes felt the weight of what was coming. This was no random crime. Someone had planned this. Someone had waited. And now they were watching, calculating, and waiting for their next move. He exhaled a long, cold breath and muttered under his teeth, "Let's see what secrets you've been hiding, Willow Creek." As the cruiser disappeared into the rain-soaked night, the faintest echo of whimpering rose in the shadows again, smothered, fleeting, almost apologetic. The darkness of the abandoned mall stretched behind them, swallowing the secrets Hayes would soon have no choice but to uncover. And somewhere in the distance, a figure in a hood watched from the tree lean, unmoving, silent, smiling. If you're following along, like and subscribe to keep up with Hayes' hunt. There's more darkness waiting in Willow Creek. The storm had passed by morning, leaving the town slick and quiet, streets glistening under a weak, gray sun. Officer Daniel Hayes drove slowly through Willow Creek, Mia bundled in the passenger seat, silent except for the occasional shiver. His mind churned, replaying every detail from last night. The whimpering behind the mall elevator, Rocco's instinctual urgency, the man in the hood. He pulled into precinct, a modest building with peeling paint, and a few rusted police cruisers, and gently helped Mia out of the car. She clung to his hand like a lifeline. "Let's get you cleaned up, okay?" Hayes said softly, guiding her inside. The warmth of the building was a stark contrast to the chill of the night. Detective Lila Mercer, Hayes' colleague and one of the few people in town he trusted, was already at her desk, sipping cold coffee. Her sharp eyes immediately took in Mia's state. "Who's this?" she asked, voice steady but curious. "This is Mia," Hayes said. "Found her behind the mall elevator. She's been through hell." He caught the faint flicker of recognition in Lila's eyes, the kind that said she'd seen horrors like this before. Lila got up, knelt to Mia's level, and offered a small smile. "Hi, Mia. I'm Lila. You're safe now. Can you tell us what happened?" Mia's eyes darted to Hayes, then Rocco, who lay alert at Hayes' feet. She bit her lip, trembling. I don't know. They said I had to stay quiet." Her voice was small, fragile, like a candle fighting a windstorm. Hayes' jaw tightened. "Who said that?" Mia shook her head. "I can't, they'll hurt." Her voice broke. Hayes knew enough. There were others, and this was no ordinary kidnapping. He exchanged a look with Lila. "We're going to figure this out," he promised. "No one will touch you." Outside the precinct, the town seemed calm, almost sleepy. But Hayes felt a tension beneath the surface, a murmur of secrets that ran through Willow Creek like a hidden river. He knew the mall had been abandoned for years, but he also knew that small towns held old grudges, old crimes, the kind that festered quietly until someone stumbled upon them. He stepped out for a moment, taking a deep breath. Rocco nudged his leg, whining softly. The dog's gaze swept the parking lot, alert, as if sensing unseen eyes. Hayes shivered. Something was watching, always watching. Back inside, Lila had begun gently questioning Mia, coaxing words from her about the strange tattoo on her wrist and the man in the hood. The letters were crude, etched as though by a child or someone desperate to leave a mark. Hayes watched silent, cataloging details, his mind racing through possibilities. Human trafficking, cults, or worse, an underground network that no one wanted Willow Creek to know existed. Just as they began piecing together a timeline, the precinct door creaked open. A man stepped inside, tall, impeccably dressed in a dark coat despite the heat of the building. His hair was neatly combed, but there was something about him, cold, calculating, unapproachable. "Detective Mercer? Officer Hayes?" The man's voice was smooth, almost rehearsed. "I'm Dr. Victor Kane. I believe we have overlapping interests." Hayes' hand went to his side instinctively. "Who are you exactly?" Kane smiled faintly, unnerving in its calm. "A concerned citizen. Let's just say I know things about Willow Creek. Things you don't. About the children. About Mia." Lila's eyes narrowed. "We don't need your help. If this is about that girl, we've got it under control. Do you?" Kane leaned casually against the wall, voice dropping. "Because the people behind this, they're not amateurs. They've been planning for years. And they're still out there, watching. You've stumbled into something much larger than you realize." Hayes' gut screamed. Something about Kane felt off, not outright threatening, but carefully manipulative. He sensed Kane had access, knowledge, maybe even influence that went beyond normal civilian reach. "I don't want any games," Hayes said, eyes narrowing. "If you know something, you tell me now or leave." Kane's smile widened, almost predatory. "I think we can help each other." Meanwhile, the quiet streets of Willow Creek hid more than rain puddles and stray cats. In a small house on the outskirts, a figure watched the precinct from behind a curtained window. His fingers tapped against the sill, impatience and anger mingling in each movement. He was a man in the hood, real name unknown, and he had lost his prize. Losing Mia wasn't just a setback. It was a challenge to his control. He muttered under his breath, voice sharp and clipped. "Hayes, Rocco, you've meddled in affairs you don't understand. But soon, I'll reclaim what's mine." Back at the precinct, Hayes and Lila debated their next move. The tattoo, Kane's sudden appearance, and Mia's fragmented memories painted a puzzle far more sinister than they could have imagined. "Do you think she knows more than she's letting on?" Lila asked quietly. Hayes shook his head. No, she's terrified, and rightly so. But someone, somewhere, planned this, and I have a feeling it isn't just one man. Kane, who had stayed silent for the past hour, finally spoke. You're correct. It's a network. Small town facades, layers of secrecy, and people willing to betray anyone for profit or power. Mia is just one piece. Hayes clenched his fists. And what do you want from us? To ensure she survives, Kane said simply, and to make sure the truth comes out. But that means cooperation and trust. Something I know is in short supply around here. Hayes felt a flicker of suspicion. Kane's calm exterior suggested control, yet there was a trace of urgency, almost desperation. He decided to hold his cards. We'll see. Over the next few days, Willow Creek began to unravel quietly. Hayes dug through old mall records, local news archives, anything that could explain the sudden surge of darkness in a town that had seemed harmless. Lila traced missing children cases over the past decade, noticing a pattern: long-abandoned warehouses, subtle connections, and a string of disappearances that had gone unsolved. Each clue led to more questions. Who could have orchestrated this? Why the mall? Why now? Hayes realized that the hooded man wasn't just an opportunist. He was part of a network deeply embedded in the town, exploiting its quiet streets and using the shadows to cover the unimaginable. One evening, as Hayes reviewed evidence at home, his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Stop looking, or you'll lose more than her. Rocco growled, sensing the threat. Hayes's hands trembled, not with fear, but with anger. Someone was daring him to dig deeper. The next breakthrough came unexpectedly. Kane had arranged a discreet meeting at an abandoned warehouse by the river. Hayes was wary, but curiosity and necessity outweighed caution. The building smelled of rust and rot, and the windows were thick with grime. Inside, Kane stood, flanked by maps, files, and photos pinned to a corkboard. Mia's face was among them, along with several others. This, Kane said, voice low, is the network. Some of these people live in plain sight. Teachers, local business owners, even law enforcement. They've been covering each other for years. Hayes scanned the photos, stomach turning. The web was intricate, almost surgical in its precision. And then something hit him, a face he recognized. The town's mayor, smiling in a photo, shaking hands with a child. His chest tightened. This was more than corruption. This was betrayal at the highest level. Kane stepped closer, eyes darkening. You have to decide how far you're willing to go. If you expose them, there's no turning back. People you trust will become threats. Hayes clenched his fists. Betrayal, secrecy, and a chilling sense of danger surrounded him. And somewhere, hidden in the shadows of Willow Creek, the hooded man was still watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. That night, back at the precinct, Hayes sat in his office, Mia asleep in the passenger seat of his cruiser. Rocco lay curled at his feet. The storm from the previous night had given way to silence, but the tension lingered like a pulse beneath his skin. Lila appeared at the door, concern etched across her face. You've changed, Daniel. I can see it. You're seeing the town differently now, aren't you? He nodded slowly. I always thought I knew Willow Creek. I thought I understood the people. But now, I don't know who to trust. And I don't know who's next. Lila placed a hand on his shoulder. We'll get them. We'll get Mia's friends back, and everyone else. But it's going to get worse before it gets better. Hayes looked out the window, eyes narrowing. The quiet streets, the innocent homes, they were all hiding shadows. And somewhere in the darkness, the hooded man smiled, ready to make his move. If you're following Hayes' hunt, like and subscribe. The shadows of Willow Creek are far from gone. Night had returned to Willow Creek, but it felt heavier now, more oppressive. Officer Daniel Hayes drove through streets slick with rain, Mia asleep in the passenger seat. The events of the past days pressed on him like a weight he couldn't shake. The mall, the hooded man, Kane's warnings, the missing children, all pieces of a puzzle that refused to fit neatly. Rocco, alert in the back seat, growled low, nose twitching. Hayes tightened his grip on the steering wheel, eyes scanning the shadows along the deserted streets. Something was out there, waiting, and he had a sinking certainty it wasn't just a hooded man. He pulled up outside the old mill by the river, a place long abandoned and rumored to hide secrets. Kane had insisted on meeting there, saying he had evidence to unmask the network in its entirety. Hayes stepped out, rain plastering his coat to his skin. Rocco padded silently beside him, ears high. The mill loomed like a monolith, its windows shattered, walls streaked with rust. Hayes pushed open the creaking door. Kane waited inside, lantern casting long shadows. A table covered with photographs and documents stretched before him. Among the faces, Hayes's pulse quickened. Mayor Langley, the local priest, even Detective Grayson, one of Hayes's own colleagues, were all in the web. "They've been careful," Kane said, voice low. "Too careful. That's why Mia survived. They didn't expect anyone to notice, but they didn't count on you." Hayes's jaw tightened. "You knew this all along." "I knew pieces," Kane admitted, almost reluctantly. "I can help you, but I can't protect you from everyone. Some of these people, they've been here for decades. They've grown rich, powerful, untouchable." Before Hayes could respond, a faint shuffle echoed from above. Rocco stiffened. Hayes drew his weapon. The hooded man dropped from a catwalk, landing lightly, silhouette framed by moonlight streaming through the broken roof. "Detective Hayes," the man said, voice chilling. "You've been meddling in affairs far beyond your understanding." "I don't care what you understand," Hayes replied. "Step aside, or I'll—" A gunshot cracked the air. Kane yelped and ducked behind the table. Hayes rolled to cover, heart hammering. The hooded man's aim was precise, terrifying in its control. Rocco leapt, teeth bared, lunging at the man, who ducked and vanished into the shadows. Mia screamed from the corner, and Hayes lunged to grab her. "It's okay. I've got you." The hooded man's laugh echoed, cold and mirthless. Then silence fell again. Hayes's breath came in ragged bursts. He looked at Kane. "We end this now," Hayes said. Kane nodded grimly, eyes hard. "There's only one way. We lure them out, expose the network before they realize we know." Over the next few hours, Hayes and Kane set a trap, carefully orchestrating a sting with Mia hidden safely in the cruiser. They spread misinformation through back channels, baiting the network to reveal themselves. It was risky. If anyone slipped, the consequences would be catastrophic. Sure enough, by midnight, the trap sprung. Shadows moved through the abandoned warehouse district, mass figures converging, each a piece of the puzzle Hayes had uncovered. The hooded man, revealed now as Elias Thorne, moved at the center, orchestrating the chaos with unnerving calm. A tense standoff erupted. Hayes, Rocco, and Kane worked with surgical precision, catching several members off guard. Shots rang out, shouts pierced the night, and chaos unfolded like a storm. But the network was smart, coordinated, and ruthless. Hayes realized that even if they won this fight, the damage in Willow Creek would linger for years. Amid the chaos, Kane grabbed Hayes' arm. "There, behind the storage crates. That's the shipment. Children, they're here." Hayes felt bile rise in his throat. He ran with Rocco, dodging debris, to uncovered cages. Inside were children, Mia's friends, some frightened, speechless, some crying, many weak from deprivation. He opened the locks, ushering them to safety. Then came the final confrontation. Elias Thorne emerged from the shadows, gun trained on Hayes. "You think this ends here?" he snarled. "You're nothing without them. Willow Creek belongs to me." Hayes squared his shoulders. "Not anymore." The struggle was brief, brutal, and merciless. Rocco bit at Elias's arm, giving Hayes the opening to disarm him. The gun clattered across the concrete floor. Hayes cuffed Elias, heart hammering with a mixture of fear, anger, and relief. The man's eyes burned with hatred, but his power was gone. Kane approached, hand on Hayes' shoulder. "It's over," he said quietly, though Hayes could feel the tension still hanging like fog. In the aftermath, Willow Creek slowly began to breathe again. The children were placed into protective custody. News of the network's exposure spread quietly. Some officials resigned, others faced prosecution. Kane, enigmatic as ever, disappeared into the night, leaving Hayes with more questions than answers about who he truly was. Hayes returned to Mall, now cordoned off, staring at the elevator shaft where it had begun. Rocco nudged his hand. Faithful and alert, Hayes knelt, brushing his fingers along the cold, wet metal. He thought of Mia, her fragile hope, the terror she had endured, and the resilience she had shown. Small-town life slowly resumed, though Willow Creek would never be the same. Secrets had been unearthed, betrayals revealed, and the town forced to confront the darkness lurking beneath its quiet surface. Hayes felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders, heavy but righteous. Mia, now safe with foster care arranged, came to visit once more. She ran into Hayes's arms, trusting completely, without the fear that had haunted her. "Thank you," she whispered. Hayes held her close. "You were stronger than anyone knew," he said, voice thick with emotion. "Never forget that." Rocco barked softly, tail wagging, as if sharing in the quiet triumph. Hayes looked around the town, the streets glistening under a calm, cold dawn. Willow Creek was scarred, but the shadows had been pushed back, for now. And though the night had passed, he knew the scars, both in the town and within himself, would linger. But for the first time in weeks, Hayes felt a quiet, powerful relief. The darkness had been confronted. Trust, betrayal, and courage had clashed, leaving truth in its wake. And Mia's eyes, bright and fearless now, were a reminder that even in the deepest shadows, hope could survive. He exhaled, letting the weight fall from his shoulders. "We did it, boy," he murmured to Rocco. The dog nudged his hand, loyal and steadfast, a reminder that some bonds were unbreakable, even in the darkest hours. Willow Creek would heal, slowly, but Hayes knew one truth would remain. The shadows might never fully leave, yet courage and integrity could stand against them, enduring. If you've been following Hayes' journey, like and subscribe. Sometimes the darkest stories hide the brightest sparks of hope.